My name is Olivia Hart. I'm 32 years old. A commercial pilot. And as I sit in my apartment surrounded by unopened wedding boxes, I feel strangely peaceful. The flowers we picked out are still sitting in catalogs on my coffee table. The guest list is still taped to my refrigerator. And none of it matters anymore, because 2 weeks ago, I discovered that the man I was going to marry wasn't planning a future with me. He was planning a transaction. I had been with Ethan Brooks for 3 years. He was 30, worked as an event planner, and made around $65,000 a year. I earned considerably more as a pilot. But that never bothered me. Relationships weren't supposed to be scoreboards. At least, that's what I believed. Ethan was organized to the point of obsession. Color-coded calendars, grocery spreadsheets, vacation itineraries planned 6 months in advance. He also loved being the smartest person in every room. I used to think it was confidence. Now I know it was something else. The first year of our relationship was wonderful. The second had cracks. By the third, I was simply too in love to admit something was wrong. The expensive restaurants, where he always ordered the most expensive meal. The spontaneous weekend trips that somehow ended up on my credit card. The designer watches that were supposedly investments. I paid for most of it. Every single time. Then came the phone. Around 6 months before our wedding, Ethan suddenly became protective of it. Face down on every table. Password changed. Never out of reach. One evening I laughed and said, "What are you hiding in there, state secrets?" He didn't laugh back. "I need privacy." Olivia. Privacy. From your fiancé. I let it go. Love makes excuses for things that logic never would. Then he started going to the gym. Religiously. Every Tuesday and Thursday. He'd return smelling of expensive perfume that definitely wasn't mine. There were late-night guys' nights that somehow lasted until 3 in the morning. And then there were the texts. The mysterious ones that always made him smile. I should have listened to the little voice inside me. Instead, I ignored it. Because we were buying a house together, or so I thought, 3 weeks ago. We found the perfect place. A charming 2-story home, with a wraparound porch, and enough room for the family we kept talking about. Price tag, $420,000. We needed an $84,000 down payment. I had saved $50,000 over the years. Ethan's contribution would be $34,000. Most of it coming from his parents. The ownership split reflected that difference. Old fair. Reasonable. I'll do it. I was excited. I remember standing in the empty living room, imagining Christmas mornings there. I even pictured our future children running down the staircase. Funny how quickly dreams can disappear. A week before, everything exploded. I accidentally picked up Ethan's phone. Mine was charging. His was next to it. Same black case. The screen lit up. A text message appeared. "Can't wait to see you Tuesday. Wear that blue shirt I love." The sender's name was Vanessa. I stared at the message. When Ethan walked into the kitchen, I asked casually, "Who's Vanessa?" He didn't miss a beat. "Oh, just a vendor I work with." A vendor. Who knew his favorite shirt? I smiled and nodded. But something inside me shifted. That night, I couldn't sleep. So, I started paying attention. The Tuesday meetings, the late nights, the lies that no longer lined up. I also made a phone call to our mortgage lender. That's when I learned something interesting. I could withdraw from the purchase agreement during the inspection period without penalty. Quietly, legally. I didn't tell Ethan. I simply prepared the paperwork, just in case. I had no idea how grateful I'd soon be for that decision. Last Sunday, Ethan's parents invited us to dinner. The moment I walked through the door, I knew something was wrong. His mother, Janet, had prepared an elaborate meal. His father, Gerald, couldn't stop smiling, and Ethan looked nervous. Everyone kept exchanging glances, like actors waiting for their cue. Halfway through dinner, Ethan tapped his wine glass. "I've been thinking about our future," he said. I smiled. I thought he was about to talk about wedding plans. Instead, he said, I think we need a prenup. The room went silent. I blinked. A prenup. Everything stays separate. He continued. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. Gerald immediately nodded. Very smart decision. Janet smiled proudly. I slowly put my fork down. Completely separate finances, I asked. Exactly. Ethan said. I looked at him carefully. And the house? He hesitated. Well, the house would still belong equally to both of us. There it was. The trap. I contribute most of the money. He gets half the asset, but my finances remain inaccessible. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Ethan smiled at me. I knew you'd understand. I did understand. Perfectly. I reached for my phone. Actually, I said quietly. Your timing couldn't be better. His smile faltered. What do you mean? I opened the document I'd prepared days earlier. Then I pressed submit. I've just withdrawn from the home purchase. The entire table froze. What? Ethan whispered. I removed myself as the buyer. Janet nearly dropped her wine glass. You can't do that. I already did. I turned my phone around and showed them the confirmation screen. The color drained from Ethan's face. But we need your income for the mortgage. I folded my hands calmly. I thought everything was separate. Olivia, no. What's mine is mine. Isn't that what you wanted? Panic spread across his face. Then I looked directly into his eyes. Maybe Vanessa can help you buy the house. For the first time all evening, he looked terrified. Ethan's mother was the first to speak. Who is Vanessa? Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Ethan looked at me. Then at his parents. Then back at me. Olivia is being dramatic, he said quickly. Vanessa is a vendor. I smiled. A vendor who texts you about the shirts she likes. Janet's face changed. Gerald leaned forward. What is she talking about? Ethan stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. This is insane. You're spying on me now. No, I said. You got careless. His jaw tightened. Then he made the mistake of looking guilty. I didn't have proof of everything yet. But his face gave me enough. Gerald pointed at me. You led this family to believe you were committed to that house. I was committed, I said. Until your son asked me to separate everything, except the asset I was mostly paying for. Janet looked at Ethan. Tell me she's lying. Ethan said nothing. That silence ruined him more than any confession could have. I stood, picked up my purse, and pushed in my chair. Thank you for dinner. Ethan grabbed my wrist. Olivia. Wait. I looked down at his hand. Let go. For once. He listened. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already buzzing. Ethan. Janet. Gerald. Then Ethan again. I didn't answer. When I got back to my apartment, the confirmation emails were waiting. My withdrawal had been processed. The lender revoked Ethan's mortgage approval within an hour because my income was no longer on the application. I sat on the floor beside a box of wedding candles and laughed until I cried. Then I called my best friend, Jessica. She answered on the second ring. Tell me you finally saw it. I went quiet. What do you mean? Jessica Sahil. Olivia. People have been talking for months. That sentence hurt more than the prenup. According to Jessica, Ethan had been bringing Vanessa around when I was flying overnight routes. He introduced her as a work friend. Sometimes as a vendor. Sometimes as someone who understood him better. And apparently, he had told people I was too trusting to notice. Too busy flying. Too practical. Too easy. Jessica's voice softened. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you. But I didn't have proof. I closed my eyes. Send me everything you have. By morning, my phone looked like an evidence board. Photos of Ethan and Vanessa at restaurants I had never visited. Screenshots of them at a wine bar. On a night, he said he was helping his father with taxes. One picture from a hotel lobby during one of his supposed vendor meetings. And the worst one, a caption from Vanessa's private story. Some men just need the right woman to make them brave. I stared at it for a long time. Brave. Was that what he called betrayal? The next few days were chaos. Ethan tried every excuse. Vanessa was just a friend. I was paranoid. I was controlling. I was punishing him financially. Then, he changed tactics. He begged. Then he threatened. Then he cried. By Wednesday, his Facebook post appeared. He wrote that he had escaped a financially abusive relationship with a woman who couldn't handle an independent man protecting himself. He said I had stolen his dream home. He said I used money as a weapon. He forgot to mention the woman he had been secretly meeting. He forgot to mention the prenup trap. He forgot to mention that I had simply taken my own money back. The comments started politely. Then they turned. Wait. Didn't he want separate finances? So, she paid most of the house deposit, but he wanted half. Is Vanessa the gym girl? That last comment disappeared within minutes. Then the whole post vanished. But screenshots are forever. Jessica saved everyone. My mother called that evening. My mother, Margaret Hart, is a retired family court judge. She has the kind of calm voice that makes guilty people sweat. I saw the post. She said, I'm handling it. No. She replied, you're surviving it. Handling it requires documentation. Within 24 hours, she had helped me organize everything. Texts, photos, mortgage emails, the purchase agreement, the prenup messages. Every lie Ethan told was placed next to the truth like evidence before a jury. Then, Vanessa did something none of us expected. She reached out to Jessica. She had just learned Ethan was engaged. He had told her. We were basically over. He told her I was cold, controlling, and only staying with him because it looked good. Vanessa sent screenshots, lots of them, messages where Ethan called me his flight-funded retirement plan. Messages where he joked that I would pay for the house because I was too loyal to question numbers. Messages where he promised Vanessa he would leave me once he was financially secure. I read those messages in my kitchen at 2 a.m, not crying, not screaming, just standing there with one hand pressed against the counter, realizing I had almost married a stranger. The next morning, Ethan showed up at my building. My apartment manager called first. Olivia, there's a man in the lobby demanding to see you. I already knew. When I came downstairs, he looked wrecked, unshaven, red-eyed, angry beneath the sadness. You destroyed me, he said. No, I replied. I stopped funding you. His face twisted. Vanessa blocked me. Smart woman. His voice dropped. We can still fix this. I almost laughed. You don't want to fix us, Ethan. You want to fix your situation. He stepped closer. I loved you. I looked at him then. Really looked. And for the first time, I felt nothing but exhaustion. No, I said. You loved what my life could do for yours. Security escorted him out 5 minutes later. That night, I opened another wedding box. Inside were the invitations, cream paper, gold lettering, our names side by side, Olivia Hart and Ethan Brooks. I picked one up, tore it in half, and dropped it into the trash. For the first time, the sound didn't break my heart. It set me free. Life after a broken engagement is strange. One moment you're planning centerpieces and honeymoon destinations, the next, you're sitting alone on your couch, eating takeout, and wondering how someone could pretend to love you for 3 years. For a while, I expected to be devastated. Instead, I felt lighter, as if I had escaped something terrible just before the door slammed shut. Unfortunately, Ethan and his parents weren't ready to let me move on. The following Friday, I received a certified letter, a lawsuit. Apparently, I was being sued for financial damages, emotional distress, and breach of promise. I read the first page and laughed. Then I called my attorney. He laughed too. You withdrew legally from a real estate purchase before marriage, he said. This case is dead before it starts. Still, the lawsuit irritated me. Not because I was worried, because it showed they still believed I owed them something. I owed them my money, my future, my forgiveness. I owed them absolutely nothing. A few days later, Jessica called. You need to see something. We met for coffee. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of emails and screenshots. Ethan's company is investigating him. I blinked. What happened? Apparently, while planning our wedding and carrying on his affair, Ethan had been using company resources for personal matters, company printers, company accounts, company discount, even company conference rooms. Jessica's cousin worked in accounting at his firm and had noticed irregular expenses for months. Hotel charges, personal meals, travel reimbursements that didn't match client schedules. And then there were messages. Messages where Ethan bragged to coworkers that once we got married, he'd finally be set. Messages where he called me his airline pension plan. I stared at the papers. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You didn't do this, I asked. Jessica shook her head. No. His own actions did. A week later, Ethan was suspended. 2 weeks later, he was fired. Official reasons: misuse of company resources, unprofessional conduct, violation of company policies. I found out because he called me 33 times. I never answered. Instead, he left voicemail after voicemail. Please call me. You ruined everything. We're supposed to be together. I lost my job because of you. The last message made me smile. No. Ethan. You lost your job because of Ethan. Then came the collapse of his lawsuit. Without a job, he couldn't continue paying his attorney. The case quietly disappeared. No court, no dramatic victory, just silence. The wedding cancellations, however, were another story. The venue deposits, the catering, the photographer, the flowers. Nearly $16,000 in non-refundable deposits, paid by his parents. They tried to recover the money. They couldn't. Janet called me one evening. I almost didn't answer. Almost. How could you do this to our family? She demanded. I nearly dropped the phone. Excuse me. You embarrassed us. Ethan lost everything. I looked out my apartment window. The city lights shimmered below. Your son cheated on me. He made mistakes. He tried to manipulate me financially. Relationships are complicated. I laughed. Actually laughed. You know what's not complicated? Janet, loyalty. She went silent. Then she whispered, you could still fix this. That was when I finally understood. None of them were sorry. Not for the lies. Not for the betrayal. They were sorry their plan failed. I hung up, blocked her number, and slept peacefully for the first time in months. 6 weeks later, I attended an aviation conference in Dallas. I didn't want to go. Jessica practically forced me. You've spent 2 months hiding in your apartment. Go be around humans. So I went. The conference was boring. Hours of seminars, safety updates, technical briefings. By the end of the second day, I escaped to the hotel restaurant. I was halfway through dinner when someone asked, mind if I sit here? Every other table is full. I looked up and forgot what I was about to say. He was handsome, not in the polished social media way. Real handsome. Warm eyes, messy dark hair, a smile that looked honest. Of course. I said. His name was Daniel Carter, 34, a trauma surgeon. He was attending a medical conference in the same hotel. We started talking, then we kept talking. About travel, about our jobs, about terrible airport food, about why neither of us seemed particularly good at having a work-life balance. Hours passed. The restaurant closed around us. Neither of us noticed. Eventually he smiled. I should probably let you sleep. I smiled back. I should probably let you save lives tomorrow. He laughed. Then he surprised me. I'd really like to see you again. I should have been scared. I should have said I wasn't ready. Instead, I handed him my phone. Put your number in. That night, I lay in my hotel room staring at the ceiling. For the first time since the breakup, I wasn't thinking about Ethan. I was thinking about a stranger who made me laugh. Daniel and I started texting, then calling, then talking every single day. He worked impossible hours. I flew all over the country. Yet somehow we kept finding time. 3 months later, he accepted a position at a hospital in my city. The timing felt almost unreal. By then, we knew each other better than some couples who had dated for years. The first time he visited my apartment, he noticed an unopened wedding box in the corner. He didn't ask questions. He simply looked at it, then at me. You don't have to keep things that hurt you. No one had ever said something so gentle to me. The next day, I threw the box away. Little by little, I started living again. Then, one evening, as Daniel and I cooked dinner together, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I already knew who it was. Olivia. Please. I need to talk to you. I made a mistake. I showed the message to Daniel. He raised an eyebrow. Your ex. Unfortunately. What are you going to do? I looked at the screen for a long moment. Then I blocked the number. Daniel smiled. I like your decision-making skills. I smiled back. And for the first time in a very long time, the future didn't scare me. It looked beautiful. I had no idea that 8 months later, Ethan would walk back into my life one final time. And when he did, he would be almost unrecognizable. 8 months later, my life looked completely different. The wedding boxes were gone. The sadness was gone. And somehow, despite everything that had happened, I was happy. Really happy. Daniel and I had built something simple and honest. We split everything. We talked about everything. There were no secrets. No hidden phones. No mysterious text messages. No games. 3 months earlier, he had proposed. Not with a grand speech. Not with fireworks. We were sitting on my balcony eating takeout when he looked at me and said, I don't want a perfect relationship. I just want this. Every day. Then he pulled out a ring. I said yes, before he finished asking. The universe has a strange sense of humor, because 1 week before our wedding, Ethan reappeared. It happened at Jessica's birthday party. She had rented a private room at an upscale sports bar. About 30 people were there. Good music. Great food. Lots of laughter. Daniel stood beside me wearing a navy suit and looking ridiculously handsome. I remember thinking how peaceful life had become. Then, Jessica suddenly froze. Oh no. I turned and saw him, Ethan. At first, I barely recognized him. He had gained weight. His expensive clothes were gone. The confidence that once filled every room had completely disappeared. He looked tired, defeated, and angry. Why is he here? I asked. Jessica sighed. He wasn't invited. Of course he wasn't. Ethan's eyes found me immediately. Then they shifted to Daniel. Something ugly flashed across his face. He started walking toward us. The room slowly became quiet. Olivia, he said. I didn't answer. We need to talk. No. We don't. Please. Daniel stayed silent beside me. Calm. Steady. Ethan looked at him. So this is him. Daniel smiled politely. I assume you're Ethan. I need a minute alone with Olivia. No. I said. He ignored me. Can you give us a second? Daniel looked at me. Do you want me to? I shook my head. No. Ethan looked devastated. You're really going to let him answer for you? Daniel chuckled softly. Actually, she answered for herself. A few people nearby laughed. Ethan's face turned red. Olivia, I know I made mistakes. Mistakes. Interesting choice of words. You cheated on me. I was confused. You tried to manipulate me financially. I was scared. You lied for months. I loved you. I folded my arms. No. You loved the version of me that paid your bills. The room went silent. Ethan looked like I had slapped him. You don't mean that? I did. Every word. Then he noticed my engagement ring. His entire expression changed. No. I looked at him. No. You're engaged. Yes. Already. Daniel finally spoke. It's been several months. Ethan ignored him completely. You can't marry him. The entire room stared. I actually laughed. I can't. You belong with me. There it was. The entitlement. Even after everything, he still thought I belonged to him. You cheated on me. I reminded him. I made a mistake. You publicly lied about me. I was angry. You sued me? I wasn't thinking clearly. Jessica nearly choked on her drink. The room erupted in nervous laughter. Ethan looked around desperately. Then he did something none of us expected. He got down on his knees, right there, in the middle of the bar. A collective gasp filled the room. Oh my God, Jessica whispered. Ethan looked up at me. Tears in his eyes. Please. I stared at him. Please what? Take me back. Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed. I lost everything. Olivia. I said nothing. Mid-job. Silence. My apartment. Silence. My family barely speaks to me. Still silence. He swallowed hard. I need you. There it was. Not I love you. Not I miss you. I need you. I suddenly felt sad. Not for myself. For him. Because after all this time, he still didn't understand. Love isn't needing someone to rescue you. Love isn't finding an ATM. Love isn't using another person's loyalty. I looked down at him. Ethan, his eyes filled with hope. Then I said softly, no. He looked stunned. You don't understand. No. I replied gently. You don't understand. Tears rolled down his face. I'll sign any prenup. I almost smiled. I don't want a prenup with you. I'll do anything. I don't want anything from you. I've changed. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said the truth. Maybe you have. The hope returned to his face. But that doesn't mean I owe you another chance. The hope disappeared. I love him. I took Daniel's hand, and he loves me. Ethan's face crumpled. You loved me once. I did. That hurt him even more. Because I used the past tense, I would have spent my entire life with you. I continued quietly. I trusted you completely. Tears filled my own eyes. And you threw that away. Nobody in the room made a sound. You didn't lose me tonight. Ethan. I squeezed Daniel's hand. You lost me a long time ago. For a moment, I thought he might finally understand. Instead, anger returned. So that's it, he snapped. You're just replacing me. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That's not how healthy relationships work. Stay out of this. Actually, Daniel said calmly. I'm afraid I can't. Ethan stood abruptly. You stole her from me? The entire room groaned. Jessica muttered. Oh. He's really doing this. Daniel looked genuinely confused. I met Olivia 8 months after you cheated on her. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. Several people laughed. One of Jessica's friends said, Math is hard. Even I couldn't stop smiling. Ethan looked around and realized nobody was on his side. Not one person. His shoulders sagged. He suddenly looked exhausted, defeated, old. Security approached quietly. Sir. I think it's time to leave. He looked at me one last time. You'll regret this. I smiled softly. No. Then I leaned against Daniel. I really won't. Ethan left without another word. The room remained silent for several seconds. Then Jessica raised her glass. To not marrying terrible people? Everyone burst into laughter. Glasses clinked. The music started again. Life moved on. 6 months later, Daniel and I got married. A small ceremony. Beautiful. Simple. Paid for equally by 2 people who genuinely loved each other. During our honeymoon in Italy, I received one final message from an unknown number. I hope he never loves you the way I did. I showed it to Daniel. He laughed, then kissed my forehead. Thank God for that. I laughed too, and in that moment, standing on a balcony, overlooking the Italian coast, I realized something important. The worst heartbreak of my life had led me to the best chapter of it. Sometimes, losing the wrong person is the greatest gift you never knew you needed. I didn't lose a fiancé. I escaped a future that would have broken me. And in the process, I found my perfect co-pilot.